The example business plan for this class is going to be that of an author or a person that writes or offers proofreading services to others. So we're going to look at 3 competitors that all write different things or offer freelance services or what. So we're going to look at 3 other providers of freelance services related to writing. So if I do a quick web search, I'll find a few places. Fiverr is probably a place that I could also look at to see what services are offered. I could just use 3 services from Fiverr or 3 providers from Fiverr to do my SWOT analysis and comparison of what rates people are charging for different services. So I've identified those rates, and now I can then go back and say, well, what do I want to charge? Sometimes charging the exact same price as somebody else can be a good strategy. Sometimes making your service more expensive and acting like a premium service could be more effective. Sometimes being the cheapest can be best. It depends on the market you're going after. So you've looked at your market and who you think you might like to go after as a client, and you've looked at what these other 3 competitors have as clients or potential clients. So that gives you a basic idea of what you can charge, how things are packaged, the rate card for operations. So we've come up with our charges that we're going to have for our writing service. So now we're going to translate that into a budget. So we have 3 that I've asked you to create: the minimal, the ideal, and the pie in the sky kind of high-end budget. So let's look at what we think we would need for this business. Well, first of all, we do need to be licensed. You can look at all the different licensing protocols. We're not overly concerned with dialing that in. We just need to know the cost. So an LLC in your state, you'd want to go to the Secretary of State's office website, and that's where most of those rates could be found. We plug that in. You'll check and see if you need a state license. Sometimes there's a home business license by the city as well that you might need. So we can plug those basic numbers in there. I'm going to estimate that it's going to be about $500 to get the state and city and county licenses in most places in the country. In Nevada, I know an LLC is about $500, and then each city is about $200. So depending on where you're located, it could be closer to $1,000. It could be $500, but $500 at least gives us a baseline of what we need to operate with. Now, for my writing business, on my minimal budget, I'm probably going to be writing at home in my home office. I do have an existing computer, so I'm going to use that existing computer. I do have a printer, so I'm going to use that printer. So I am pretty good. I think the only thing I probably would benefit from is a larger computer monitor. So I'm going to throw $200 on here to put a bigger computer monitor in there so I can to read. I think I would also like to have a phone for this company. If you get a Magic Jack phone, I think that would be plenty for what I want to do, but that way I can have a separate phone number. Marketing expense wise, I know I want to have business cards. Marketing expense wise, I know I want to have business cards. I've got to have a website. That's probably minimally what I would need marketing wise. I'm going to build it myself to save a little money, just a real basic website. Ideally, I wouldn't do that, and on my next budget, I will have that separate. On my next budget, I'll have that separate. On my ideal budget, I've got the same marketing, basically. I'm going to have the business cards, which I think are important to be able to hand out at events. I'm going to have my website, but this time I'm going to give a little bit of a budget to build a really basic one-page, website that features my business. I'm still going to be working at home, but I think I would like a faster computer. Do want that computer monitor, so we're going to plug in a little money for that computer and the computer monitor. I'm okay with my printer. I think a laser printer would be better, so I might throw that on my other budget here in a second. My last budget is going to be my pie in the sky, my big budget. This has everything that I could possibly... My last budget's going to be my pie in the sky budget, the one that if I was ideal, it's not just what I need, but some of the stuff that I want to have in my business. So I still want that computer that I put in my ideal budget. I want that monitor, but I'm going to add a nice laser printer because I figure I'll be printing out a lot of stuff. I want a nice mouse. I mean, there's some specialized mouse and keyboards that are very nice for writing, or if you like them, they're ergonomic. The new trend to help people who work at the computer all day is to have a stand-up desk, so I think I would throw a stand-up desk on there. That's a pretty substantial cost. I think I would still operate the business at home, so I've got those same home expenses there. Still need the state licensing, so I've still got the state, county, city licenses that I might need. And that's pretty much my budget there. Now we're going to look at our income stream. So we've looked at what we think we can charge rate card wise or hourly or package wise. And we're going to figure out how many hours that we can work. Well, I know that as a freelancer, I'm probably going to only be working maybe half to 3/4 of my time, and the other quarter is going to be looking for the next job, looking for the next work, and marketing myself and being at events and making myself known to people that might want my service. So I'm thinking I have about 30 hours a week that I'll be able to work. Starting out, 30 hours a week is going to be a lot to try to expect in your first few weeks or even months of operation. So we're hoping by the end of the year, we're getting about 30 hours per week. So that's kind of our maximum, we really think. Without bringing anybody else on, without really sacrificing in our personal life, 30 hours is probably going to be where we're going to cap out at. So if we look at our lower end of stuff, if we look at our lower end or our starting point of how many hours we think we're going to get, that's going to be probably much lower. So maybe 5 to 10 hours a week. You know, if you have a good lead, you have a company that you're already working with that will give you some work or feed you some work. You might, if you have a company that you're working with or that might feed you some, if you have a company that you're working with or that might feed you some work, maybe that estimate is kind of low, but the 5 to 10 hours is probably pretty fair for a really starting out business that's looking and trying to establish itself. For our example in evaluating a business idea, we really want to look at that maximum income that you can generate. So we're going to take that 30 hours and divide that into what products and services that you offer. If it was a product, maybe if you could sell maximum with you building them, 1,000 placemats, and that's what you could personally manufacture in a year. We would take that amount, multiply it times your cost to the customer, and that's the income stream we're looking for. So in our example with our writer, we're going to look and they have a few different categories of writing. We're going to divide that 30 hours up between those different categories, and then we'll determine what maximum income they could make.